Nick, we cannot figure out how to do a countdown timer, but we're live. We can figure that out. It took a while, actually.
No, we're 5 minutes late. That's basically on time. And we have
I
a
mean,
special guest, the
we do.
Sage, Tully Corcoran.
Hello, guys.
The
How
wise
are you,
Sage.
sir?
How are you, Tully?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Fantastic.
I'm. I don't think Jaylen Daniels is going to win the Heisman.
Our preseason show, we did who's more likely to get a Heisman talk, and it was Jaylen or Devin Neal, and that I feel stupid.
Well, I said Devin Neal, and you guys tried to make me feel stupid, but I'm clearly winning that as it currently stands.
You do not want to go back and listen to the audio because my whole thing was that expectations are high and that there's a lot at stake. And if KU underdelivers, people are going to freak out, and it's not going to be good for the university or for the athletic department.
All right. So I'm glad you're teasing this because I want to get into this here in a little bit.
That
you
like
seem to be you seem to be taking a victory lap over this, and
how?
Well, you're just like, I was right sort of deal. You
didn't listen.
When you get a scoop right and then you tweet the little green check mark. I don't think you were right, and even if you were, it's not a cool thing to have been right about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that you were just doing the other check mark. You just should listen to me is all I'm trying to tell you.
All right, I'm adding Mech on the stage. Jayhawk talk.
Jayhawk talk.
There he is.
JD for Heisman still possible. Okay, so I don't think so. Tully, Mech, you guys weren't here for the last episode, which we did after the Illinois loss, and I want to start a new tradition, which is every time KU comes off a loss, we start the show with Fraud Watch. Last week there were a lot of people who were put on it. Jeff Grimes, Jaylen Daniels, Kelly Leipold,
Jared Casey.
Those were the big ones. And just because you've been on Fraud Watch before doesn't mean you can't be on again. So, Mike, do you want to do the honors of nominating our first fraud for Fraud Watch this week?
Well, yeah, we could just figure out who's still on Fraud Watch. In theory, we could take people off Fraud Watch. I'm sure we're missing some.
I don't think anybody that was put on last week is getting taken off for what it's worth.
I think all those people are still on. Actually, Jared Casey's the only one you can maybe make an argument for. I leave him on because I had him his first touchdown, and he had a chance and he didn't get in. So he's still on Fraud Watch to me.
Fraud warnings. I'm not leading with Casey. I refuse to do that. Look, there's two people that you lead with here, and I cannot figure out who to blame. Because we got to blame someone, right? Someone gets blamed. That's what we're doing on the show. Is it Jeff Grimes? Is it Jaylen Daniels? Is it both? We got to go for both. We got to discuss both guys. I think we start with Jeff Grimes. Is Jeff Grimes on Fraud Watch? What could possibly happen that would get him off Fraud Watch? Like, this fraud warning. He leads in fraud.
Yeah, I think he's the easy one, right? Grimes is the easy one because it's just what I kept thinking throughout that game. When I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, JD threw a bad pass and he threw another bad pass. And I think you had the tweet after the game. I'm paraphrasing, but you're just like, well, Jaylen Daniels is terrible now. Like that much we know. And I'm just trying to figure out why. Because he was not terrible for a sustained period of time.
He has had an awesome career until right now.
And I'm trying to figure out, did he just forget how to play football? Is he just bad now? Or was like the offense that he was in the last 2 years like tailor-made for him? And this one is like the antithesis to that with Jeff Grimes.
Yeah, this is sort of a cowardly take I'm going to make here, but I think there's kind of a confluence of factors happening. I think Daniels is off. He's rusty, or he might be kind of injured or something. he's not reading the defense. I mean, that second pick against UNLV, the safety, I don't think took a step on the play. He just stood where he was at the snap, and Daniels throws this like confident ball. You're like, oh, he's wide open. And it's like right to the guy. So he did that again where it's just an obvious, like the guy's standing right there. He throws it right to him. So there's something off with him. But I didn't think the play calling was so much an issue against UNLV. It was against Illinois, I thought. But I think there's something to the idea that maybe, maybe this new offensive coordinator, Grimes, doesn't know how to work with Daniels. Maybe Kotelnicki did and had that figured out, but I don't totally buy that theory, even because like what I just said about Daniels and the reads. It's not like it's bad reads and it's bad throws and it's like bad play calling. I don't know why.
It's compounding all on itself in like the most frustrating, maddening way. And I was telling this story on the Discord. I don't know if I should tell it in public, but in college, when we figured out that like milk was good at killing spicy things, like spicy food, we're like, what if milk was a good chaser for alcohol? And so we took like a shot of like cheap whiskey and we were chasing it with milk. Like we did, there were multiple. Like the first one wasn't good. It got worse too. And Jeff Grimes and Jaylen Daniels might be like whiskey and milk, where it's like they both serve a purpose at doing similar things, but it doesn't work together. And your stomach is like really upset if you put them together.
I know one thing. There's like one thing that's different about this team, because all the starters are back. Like pretty much all of them are back. Like we're missing a tight end. Like that's the one missing piece from last year, basically. Like everyone else is back. We got a head coach back. We got 3 great wide receivers. We have 2 great running backs. We've got a former preseason Big 12 player of the year at quarterback still back. We have one difference. One. And that is the offensive coordinator. One thing. That's it.
The O-line coach.
2-15 in his last 17 FBS games.
Yeah,
that's not a good record, but it is a Kansas football record. So maybe they identified him quickly as our guy. Like it doesn't make sense that the wheels went off at Baylor, and you've seen Baylor fans on Twitter be like, "Yeah, no, this is what we were talking about."
It doesn't. Is not Grimes, it's Lance.
We're gonna get in. I would like to get.
That's the hot take.
Okay, well, let's just do it. Let's just do it because I was already going to do it.
I was too.
Lance Leipold, you are on Fraud Watch, sir.
Yep.
Listen, I get it. Like we can blame the play caller and we can blame the guy who's out there on the field actually trying to execute. But like when you go through the different types of coaches, we've had coaches at Kansas that were more like offensive schemers and they wanted to be play callers. Lance is the quintessential, just like CEO of the program, right? He is the overseer. He delegates. And when things go well, you give those types of coaches a ton of credit. You say, hey, they don't try to meddle with the play calling. They don't try to meddle with the offense. They trust their coordinators and the play callers to do their jobs. But when shit hits the fan like it is right now, I start to wonder like, oh, you haven't had to hire an OC in a long time. Yeah. And I don't know if it's like he doesn't have great connections or if he was just like wasn't prepared to lose Andy Kotelnicki. Like he didn't have any sort of inkling that this could happen and didn't have any sort of plan in place of what would happen if you lost your OC. But now I sort of wonder too, all right, you've stuck with your dudes forever, consistently. Are you going to be able to do it now when you had expectations and everybody's calling for your coach and everybody knows you see it because you're very online? Like, so like, I want to know what's going to happen now, because how he handles this is going to tell us a lot about like what he views as the problem. Is it Jeff Grimes? Is it Jaylen Daniels? Because this is kind of uncharted territory for Lance.
There have been a few of these moments that have kind of come up over the last 2 years where they've been on this run. Honestly, handling like media in Jaylen Daniels has been the kind of big frustration point the last couple of years, or like just some awkward kind of Lance moments. And where it's like, okay, kind of new territory, a little bit more big time for them, going from D3 to Buffalo to a Power 5 or 4 school, even though Kansas like isn't big time, but it is like totally new territory. And you're like, we're not changing our offense, but I'm bringing a guy in. He's got to learn it. He doesn't know the terms. He wants me on the field to hug players, a bunch of weird stuff. And Lance has got to figure out like how to handle this. How you got to trust? Do you trust your OC or do you trust your star quarterback? Like, do you?
Well, prediction time. My prediction is that he's going to do nothing. Lance is going to change nothing. Like Grimes is going to continue to be the play caller. JD is going to continue to be the starting quarterback. Only because I've never seen him be like flighty with this sort of stuff. Like, hey, you're our OC. You're our OC. And demoting him 3 games into the season or 4 games or 5 would be like a very David Beatty-esque move. Panic.
I agree.
Okay. Like now, okay, I'm admitting defeat. I made the wrong call. Because once you start doing that, it's like, oh, do you really know what you're doing? Or are you just kind of fucking winging this?
Oh, I felt the exact same way. And Nick, you tweeted something about, I think all of us, I guess, might have said something similar. I guess I don't know what Tully said or was thinking, but like when everyone was calling to bench Jaylen Daniels, I think Nick, you, me, and Jayhawk talk all kind of thought like, no. I literally went to Beatty. I was like, that's what Beatty would have done. Turner Gill changed quarterbacks in the first half of the first game, I think, against North Dakota State. Tully might. No, there was definitely a switch.
Yeah. I don't remember if it was during the game or not, but it was after the first game for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So where's your ceiling? Like, what's the best thing? It's probably to be consistent with a program that has not had any amount of consistency. That was my take as well. Like, you can't do it.
I didn't think they should have benched Daniels necessarily, but what I didn't like was they left him in the game, and then it was obvious they didn't trust him at all.
You're right.
They were backed up to their own end zone and ran the 3 most conservative plays you've ever seen. It was like obvious they don't trust their starting quarterback to run the offense. It's like, well, you either have to take him out or you have to run your offense. You can't just give up, So and they didn't, they got back to it, and it didn't get any better really. But that was a pretty bad moment, I thought, just overall in terms of like, it's just another one of you go, what's going on here? Who's running this thing? I mean, and it was the same thing against Illinois. It's like everybody's complaining about the play calling. I'm like, well, Lance has a headset on. Hey, idiot, run the ball.
Yeah, they can talk to the quarterback now too. It's
but it
true.
didn't happen. But that's the fraud watch problem. Here we are. Like there has to be some accountability for Lance here. You cannot escape that. I mean, we can call all day the OC is the problem. The OC is the problem. But he has had the luxury of having an OC that he trusts implicitly for a long time. And now he doesn't. And he has handled different coaches different ways that he didn't click with or didn't work, whatever, it didn't happen. He has to figure out what to do here. Something. I mean, he has to know that there is a problem or that there was a problem. or in game, instead of going ape shit on a ref, go ape shit on your OC for a minute. Like, figure it out.
It is. I do wonder, like, at what point they realized there was an issue, because it's entirely possible it wasn't until
stadium knew there was an
Illinois.
issue.
Right? No, I'm saying what like were there signs of this?
Issue.
You mean like in the off season?
Could he see?
Oh, you're talking about off season. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying, like,
in game.
Were they like quietly being like, Lance is like texting Andy and he's like, yeah, you know how we used to like get Casey wide open? Yeah, we're fucked. Because like we're not going to be able to do that, and Jaylen can't adjust. He's not going to make reads.
Okay. Kevin, other Kevin has joined us now as well, so we got double Kevin. Is there anybody on this call right now that thinks Jaylen Daniels should be benched? That another quarterback should start for KU this week?
Not me.
Because I saw a lot of it. I saw a lot of that during the game.
I put a poll out. I'll do it right now. What do you think the number is for benching Jaylen? Well, I
think it's a lot.
You know,
different than during the game.
What pissed me off was I would see people sort of hinting at it, like, "Oh, it can't get much worse than this. Maybe it's time to see what the other guy has." And I kept thinking to myself, no, if you're going to say it, say it. Say that you think that the only reason why we thought this team was going to be good, Jaylen Daniels, that guy should no longer start, and instead we should go to Cole Ballard or a true freshman, that one of those two guys will give this team their best chance to win. Because the point to where I'm at, I know a lot of people are saying, like, this isn't working, it's time to intervene, you have to change something. I totally understand that. Quarterback is not the thing you change. It's just not. Because if you're saying that this quarterback's not good enough to get it done, then it's not going to get done. Like, that's where if Jaylen can't get right this season, whatever your hopes are, it's not going to be solved by putting in one of the dudes behind him at quarterback. That's just not the solution.
I agree with that. I think one more game like that, though, and the season's done anyway. You know,
yeah.
Daniel's career is over anyway. You know, it's hard business, but I think it might be time if he has another game like that.
Hey, Tully, this is from last week. Hey, Jayhawk Talk, you'll like this too. Jared says, need more Jank minutes. And that's like the classic KU basketball fan being like, play Jank, play Jankovic. And that's kind of where we're like, Ballard, which I get.
Well, people always say, like, could it get any worse? Dude, it can always get worse. You're not losing these games by a lot. You know, these games are coming down to the wire. They don't have to come down to the wire. Like, I think two drives of Cole Ballard, and we're going to say, okay, maybe that wasn't the solution.
I think we do have to point out that other than really like the passing game, the team looks pretty good to me.
So I was going to get to this. Glasses on. This is our nerd moment, which we might have a few of on the show. Where are my glasses? Oh, thank you. So glasses on. SP Plus Bill Connolly, ESPN stats guy, says he put out his new rankings. KU was down to the number 30. That means he has 29 teams he would say would be favored against Kansas, and everyone else wouldn't be favored to beat KU in his algorithm. West Virginia's the favorite. He's got KU win. What? Yeah, his algo, his model, baby. So like, maybe that model isn't like, hey, there's a huge issue with the quarterback and the offensive coordinator like being whiskey and milk. I don't know how the algo like is going to figure that one out. But it's a fair point. Like, the defense has been good. The line has been good. The running backs are great. Are we back? And then the other thing is
because guess what? You still have to fucking win the games.
Yeah.
Because you still have to. This is what I get it. It's like a predictive measure. Who would be favored? Fantastic. That's great if you want to bet on games. They lost these games. So like, they shouldn't have lost. It doesn't really matter because in college football, like, now the pressure's on. Now the pressure is on to perform, to make changes, and every single week that goes by that nothing changes and the offense still looks like shit, the pressure is going to continue to ramp up on Lance, on Travis Goff, on the entire program. Like, it is nut cutting time, and I would just be a little disappointed if it's just going to be like business as usual moving forward. But I get it, because if you make a change, then it's like, oh, you're flighty, you don't know what you're doing, you're irrational. Like, if you don't make a change, you're seen as stubborn. So, I don't know. This is weird.
If Ballard played the first 3 games, what's our record? Let's just say he had a average efficiency, couple turnovers, very average, like
2-1.
Yeah, I think with average quarterback play, I think they might be undefeated.
I think they're undefeated.
Wait, which game do you guys think?
Bad. Illinois is bad. They played so bad. They were so bad.
Which game was worse from JD?
Oh, UNLV to me.
Yeah.
UNLV was worse for me too. They couldn't throw the ball. Like, it was.
Well, they could until they couldn't. You know,
the first half was. I mean, like the first 30, whatever, or 28 minutes were pretty good.
Dude, you know what was so funny about the first half of that UNLV game? The announcers are just destroying UNLV, their clock management. They're like, oh, they're not calling a timeout. These fucking idiots. Oh, they're gonna blow this. They're call a timeout, you dumb fucks. And then they just touchdown. Wheel route, 2-point game.
It was pretty lucky.
It was incredibly lucky, but like, it worked. Maybe Barry Odom's like, yo, they're freaking out over there. Just go. just go. For me, the reason you can't bench Jaylen against UNLV. Like, it's non-con play, and the way things are set up now to really reward your conference performance is part of the reason you don't make the change yet. You don't need to yet.
Yeah.
You better, like, behind the scenes, be making damn sure you know what you're going to do and have a plan for if he breaks again, because he broke against UNLV. Once he threw that pick, the first one, he was like trying to throw it so hard it felt like he was bouncing like balls before it got to guys, launching it over their heads. Like, that's where I really felt like, whoa, he is starting to just really force. Like, his confidence is not there. And so I've heard, like,
fragile.
The staff is frustrated with Jaylen Daniels because of him putting them through a pretty hard time to stay in Lawrence. You know, getting like $1 million roughly to play, which makes sense, right? Like, he's doing his thing, but the staff is like, yo, this guy made it really hard on us, or stressful.
Hey, welcome to college football. That's what you're going to have to do for good players. Like,
but then it's like, is he good? And then the players are pissed at the OC because they don't think he's good, or he's fucking with Jaylen, or like is like two in his head, or keeping a tight leash about where the ball should go, and it's messing with Jaylen. And it's like, okay, so the coaches are pissed at the quarterback, the players are pissed at the OC. We got a problem.
These guys need a players-only meeting immediately. They got to get Henry T's stat.
Henry T's.
That's a CEO problem, though, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah. Yeah, no.
All those things you just said, that's a CEO problem.
Yeah.
Hey, Foggy commented, do the players actually want Z as the OC?
Yeah, so Foggy thoughts, you know, I'd say generally he has got the pulse of the players, and he says that the players want Z calling plays. Z is the co-OC. He was the interim OC during the bowl game, called plays that game. I don't think Foggy's not saying that for no reason. is my hunch. So I'm sure he'll comment here. There's a little bit of a delay too, but interesting. Lance kept a kid in at Buffalo with a negative touchdown and interception ratio. I don't see JD ever getting benched.
He's got that.
Yeah, how bad was the negative touchdown interception rate? I don't think JD is getting benched either. And I don't think Jeff Grimes is going anywhere.
Correct.
Unless I don't think it would go and he would go anywhere unless it got to the point where Lance felt like it was affecting like his ability to get other jobs, which I don't know. Are we already encroaching? Like, are we approaching that? Because I don't care how it plays out. If you go 6-6, like the idea of Lance taking the Michigan State job, like that's done. That's completely done.
KU makes a bowl game 3 years in a row for the first time in program history. It has never happened. You're 1-2 right now. What I'm just saying, we need to like recalibrate a bit here.
I think it's
and like let's make history.
Okay, let's do it then. Let's do it then. Let's just get into it because the next guy who's going on Fraud Watch is Mr. Travis Goff. Okay. Everybody.
Whoa.
There is nobody safe. This is the most disastrous start to the year that you could have possibly conjured up. 1-2 because you played a high school team in week 1. Like, this is as bad of a start to the year as we could have imagined. And just like I said last week, I'm so tired of like the rhetoric from the athletic department that this is all about the fans and fan support and we need you to come out and support these guys. I am telling you right now, you got 4 games coming up at Arrowhead and that stadium is going to be empty. I don't know what those tickets are going for. Fans aren't coming out. They're just not. Spoiler alert. They're not showing up to these games at Arrowhead and you got a brand new stadium that you're in the middle of building. And I thought of Tully as soon as this game ended because I go, oh shit, this stadium's not getting built. It's not. They're not finishing. They're going to have half a new stadium and that same, what is it, that eastern side, that's the old stuff. They're never finishing this stadium because of the way this is playing out it's just the most Kansas thing ever for this to happen right in the middle of building a new stadium. And I like, you gonna blame the fans, the fan support, the expectations? No, it doesn't have anything to do with that. It has everything to do with the fact that you have looked like a terrible football team the last 2 weeks. That's it. That's it, Mike. It doesn't have anything to do with us getting our expectations up or predicting 9 or 10 wins, because if you thought this was a 6-win team, we would still be pissed that you pissed 2 away the last 2 weeks to UNLV and Illinois.
Anybody can get it from Nick.
How do I? Can
you put that up, Mike?
Yeah. Okay. So this is going to be a picture of Nick here. Let me pull this up. I mean, like, you're going after Goff? No, it is a good question. Is this the implications of where KU is at right now? Is like the most KU football thing, and the stadium being half built, and it all came. I don't know about you guys, but when that fumble recovery happened or didn't happen, right? When the whole defense touched the ball and like it all came rushing back of like what KU football has been. And what was that? It was like, oh my God, like Fraud Watch, the new era, put the new era on Fraud Watch because that was old school KU football. And Tully, I'm wondering if you felt that as well. And here is Nick. Nobody's safe.
We're getting you this eye black, Nick.
On this show with Nick Schwartz, nobody is safe.
Yeah, to answer your question, Mike. Yeah, I did have that feeling watching the game, and it's kind of hard not to if you've watched Kansas football for 30 years. You just sort of know what to expect, and you see these things happen, and you go, well, I guess that's it. I guess it's back to, and that's probably a, that's a little bit of a defense mechanism, a little bit of a cope, a little bit of a basketball season. But it's hard to avoid that when you see it, like you lost to UNLV and here we go again. Quarterback looks awful. It looks like chaos. The team looks chaotic.
Unprepared.
They look kind of like emotional. There's like hero ball stuff going on. It looks kind of like when the basketball team, kind of like last year on the basketball team a little bit, where there's kind of this like expectation that's still on the thing, but everybody looking at it's going, yeah, this isn't going to work, And with KU football, you just, as opposed to basketball with the football team, I think you just kind of assume it's not going to work unless it's there's some evidence to the contrary, and right now there isn't.
What are you resetting expectations to? We talked about this, I don't know, a few weeks ago. Where was Nick? Was it 10 wins?
That was preseason. I had him for 10.
Mike was.
You were all high
still on the table.
Lance. You were all high on Lance's supply, and that is not a good thing.
That prediction is
high
not
on Andy's.
And you were yelling at us for having just a hint of just a tiny bit of reluctance to go dream season, only because we've seen this before. I remember saying it. We had expectations, and when expectations are there, tell me when it's worked for KU football. Tell me when. Oh,
we were high, but these last 2 weeks were like going to Promises Malibu. We went to rehab, and I'm not high anymore.
Kevin's your thing says defund the program.
I think
you're sad boy. You're sad man.
They're fat cats. They see this money rolling in, the new stadium. Maybe take it away. Maybe have Goff hold a press conference and be like, you know what? Maybe I'll just keep some of that money. We'll give it to basketball, women's volleyball, and you guys have to earn it again. Earn your allocation of funding.
Earn it, David Beatty.
Call off the construction crews.
Yeah, but do it publicly. Yeah. That was quick.
Foggy thought sent this over. We got Nick with the eye black on. Nobody's safe.
Nobody's LinkedIn picture.
Good teams recover that fumble. Kansas football does exactly what we saw Kansas football do. And it just is terrible. It just is something is wrong. I don't know how to explain it, but if you've seen it, I really had forgotten about the details of how bad KU was there for a while, had faded. And once that fumble happened, it was reliving trauma, coming back all at once. I was in a bad place.
That play happened in slow motion
place.
As I was watching it.
Oh my God.
As that ball started bouncing, I was like, oh, surely they won't all fucking not be able to pick it up. I'm like, one of these idiots will fall on it. And then the first guy.
There's
the
another
first
one.
guy kind of bounced it. I was like, they can probably only get away with that one more time. And then somebody on the other team's going to grab it. And then when they did, I think I just kind of leaned back in my chair. And I was like, yep, okay. Yep.
If we recover that, we win the game. Yeah. There's 10 different ways they win that game. And you could say the same thing a little bit for Illinois.
No. Hey, did Burroughs really have a club on?
I don't know. I don't even know. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It might have been 6 to 8 players there around the ball.
The point is, your stats boy, nerd guy with the glasses, has us at 30. That's probably still not that far off. Yeah, I mean, to turn the dial just a tiny bit more optimistic, we played as dumb as we could play for 2 straight games, dum-dums. And probably still shoulda, coulda won. I don't know how you want to say it. I guess the point that I'm getting at is this toast? Are we toast? Is it?
I wouldn't
You
say
guys are talking about old KU like it's all coming back and
Well,
that's
the
I know
question.
the feeling. I know
Damage.
the feeling. I understand exactly what you're the coping, everything totally said. I completely agree. But now I'm asking, like, is this where we're at? Or are we gonna turn the page? Are we gonna
I'm not convinced. I think the team is going to get better. To me it looks like a pretty good team that's playing like shit, which happens from time to time, you know. Is it going to be enough to like, you know, recover what the expectations were? Who knows? Probably not. But it wouldn't shock me if they, you know, won 6 games or something this year.
Is a 6-win game a good season for KU football?
It always
6-win
is.
season.
You have to say yes, I think.
At this point, if you could lock me in at 6 wins, I would take it.
So
I would take it too.
Was that 5-4 the last 9?
Yeah, which would still be, you know, one of the 10 best seasons of my lifetime.
Right.
For Kansas football. That's so fucking sad. I think you'd have to. I think you could do, but I think both things can exist. You could say, yeah, I would take that right now, but I could still get to the end of the season and say, I'm still disappointed based off of what we thought this team could have been.
Well, it would be a killer if they went on a run. You know, they win 4 or 5 games in a row or something like that. And then you look back at these 2 non-conference games, go, oh, man, there it went.
Yeah, you know. You know what's great though? Still undefeated in conference in play. Still 0 losses in Big 12 play, just as they were last week. So the path to the CFP is very easy to figure out what they got to do.
It is absolutely and hilariously like on the table, and I think it can flip pretty quick. I think you beat West Virginia in a lot of
2.5.
A lot of that goes fast.
The line is only 2.5.
But this goes one of 2 ways. Like the switch gets flipped, or like you have 2009 and the team collapses. And totally, like, what do you remember being around that team? Was there a moment that year where you were like, I think the wheels have completely come off? And also,
no,
this is like 14. This is a while ago, by the way. So, like,
it's the last time we had expectations.
Right.
I remember that season.
I mean, there really wasn't a point like that because they were in almost every game that year. The game that stands out to me from that season was Nebraska in Lawrence. They played Nebraska in Lawrence and, you know, had them beat. They had them beat, and then there was like I think Justin Thornton got a, you know, penalty or something, and Nebraska kicked a field goal, I think, and won the game if I remember right. But no, to answer the question, it was never like this team is cooked. Every game was like, okay, this is the week that, you know, they're going to get back on track. They look pretty good, and it just never happened. And that team was dealing with all kinds of drama and stuff because of Mangino, and that was, I think they were 5-0 when that started, and then they lost every game the rest of the year. So, you know, if we're talking about firing the offensive coordinator or whatever, you know, that's the kind of thing that you should be pretty careful with, because once you get drama and emotions and disagreements and stuff going on inside a team, I think it can be a lot to deal with if you're not super, super talented.
And like people yelling at your quarterback, your offensive coordinator, your wife on Twitter.
There wasn't much Twitter back then either.
Is so like two things. What really are the implications? Like, what's at stake here of the wheels coming off? Because if you blow it and you have an empty stadium, you've got the rest of the season. All the seniors are like, the whole team are seniors. They're not coming back. You go to a new stadium next year that's 70% full or 70% rebuilt. 30% old and no commitment for that remaining 30% technically yet. Like, there's some serious implications here for like how this season goes. It feels like Travis Goff, KU, went pretty all in. They're taking their shot this year, right? Show up, be there. We're going to play at Arrowhead. We want the big stadium in Kansas City in $500 million for a football stadium, and we're gonna use that momentum to fund the rest of the stadium. And their cards aren't as good as they thought when they went all in, or they just got some shit luck on the turn here. I think it's pretty. It is a little bit scary here, and a coach who's like probably getting pretty pissed about all this.
What is
I don't know.
What does he have to be pissed about? Like, this is his product.
I know.
I'm the consumer. I'm the one who should be pissed. Like, Lance is the one who put this product out for us. Like, the idea that now he would be more eager to leave because he fell short of expectations. I'm not connecting those dots.
I'm not either, but like, it's not a good recipe.
It's
the most Kansas football thing.
A soured relationship between him and the fans right now. I mean, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but it's. I think to Mike's point, it is something that's kind of it's something to keep an eye on, because again, that's one of those things that once something like that kind of gets started, that can really get entrenched and it gets deeper and it just becomes this lingering issue. I don't think Lance has anything to be mad about. The KU's given him, I mean, what are they supposed to, I guess they could give him a lifetime contract or something, but they built him a stadium. I mean, he's making a ton of money. He's being paid, I think, like a top 20 coach.
It matters to him, though. I think we've seen it. I don't know if it's Kelly and him or what, but like, I think that stuff matters to them. Are you here? Are you showing up? Are you doing your part? Don't worry about it. Like, we're doing our part. You're doing your part, and that you're right. Totally, that something gets a little fractured there. I don't know. Like, I think it seems like it bothers him more than the average coach.
Yeah,
it's like prove that this is going to change, in that we're going along together here, because you need resources to change or to win in college football. Like, not even change, just to win. So with like, that agitation, I don't know what could happen that would totally like fix it too. The other side of that is if your fans do care as much as Nebraska and you start 1-2 with two horrible losses with poor coaching and you lose to UNLV, your job is on the line really fast. And that's not really that's not where KU is at. So yeah, that's the other side of this.
30-9 and Nebraska fired him.
Well, I think that's Lance. Part of, I think, like, wasn't that Lance's coach when he was at Nebraska?
They would have been there at the same time. Yeah,
I think he was an assistant there with Solich, who got run out by like message board fandom, and it was a huge mistake for Nebraska. And then it's like, well, shit. I keep going back to like everyone being too online. Nick's old take. And Nick's take, you can take this, like, but it was that the AD, the basketball players, this is when they were like shouting out the burners, and everyone around the program was way too online. And it's kind of happening with football too.
Like, I hope not. When they brought in Lance Leipold, I was like, oh, okay, this just like Wisconsin guy who's just grinded out a career in D3, won a bunch of titles. Then he went to Buffalo, never been given like an opportunity to do it on the biggest stage. I was like, oh, okay, this dude's just like a red-blooded American, like just old school football coach, doesn't care about anything. And dude, he's not. Like, he loves new uniforms. He needs all this money coming in. He needs a new stadium. He is online. His wife is online. he's like getting pissed about things that are being said on Twitter. It's like, this is not the guy I thought we hired, which is fine.
He turned into Dion like overnight. He's like cowboy hat.
Can we Photoshop Lance with the
Little
Dion
James
glasses?
Bag.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Oh no. So like my fear right now is you've got all these people online, your AD. I'm sure that I feel like Grimes has been pretty online too. Got to have a burner. I'm sure that like these coaches have burners. They're seeing themselves get trashed. Like that's what's going to lead to like poor and emotional reactions. And then you've got players too who are going to be online. That's normal, I guess. But it feels like they care. And it's not the worst thing, but it's like I don't like it's just a really pretty negative out there right now. And then Brad asks, what's your take on the fans booing? I thought it was warranted. The team seems like got booed pretty heavily, pretty quick there in the second half once they stopped throwing the ball with Jaylen.
It was, it was more about what Tully said, where they just stopped trying, or they just became extremely predictable for about 35 minutes of time. Like it just, everyone in the stadium was like, wait a minute, what are we doing? Like, are we trying to win this game or not? Because it didn't look like it at all. I mean, I was there. It was not friendly for about, well, basically the end of the half until the, mid of the fourth quarter. Bad football.
Was it like, did you feel like it was specifically towards Jaylen, or was it just like for the entire product?
I think it was probably a little bit of. I mean,
I was surprised.
I feel like it was play calling.
Play calling, and
I
Jaylen.
thought it was handing off 3rd and long is when I really heard it on TV, where they were just like,
bubble
hell
screen
no,
was the worst. I mean, the bubble screen.
Yeah,
that was the dumbest play call I've ever seen.
Because I'll be honest, I was a little surprised how hard fans were going after Jaylen during that game, because like I get it, he's playing very poorly, but also it's like this dude largely responsible for like KU's return to any level of prominence. And there was a part of me that just wondered, like, how quickly do we just throw in the towel on a guy? Like, we thought he was this dude, he thought he was one of the best quarterbacks in college football, and then just like a game and a half, and we're like, fuck this dude, put in Ballard. I'm like, oh, okay. All right.
At the time, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I think, Nick, you shared something. It was, at least on Twitter, pretty hot and heavy to bench him after that second interception. I mean, that made 6 interceptions, but I'm looking at the poll that we did about half an hour ago. 544 votes, about 2-1. 67 don't bench, 33 bench. So 1 in 3 online KU fans say bench, which is actually a little lower than I expected. But I think with time, people kind of can't. I bet that number was flip flopped
during the game. I would completely agree. Majority would have said yes, but I mean, again, like to win that game, your best bet probably would have been to switch. To have your best possible season, I get why you you wait. You just trust the process, and you trust your coach, who is big time. Right?
There he is.
We got Lance. Photoshop is in with the Dion glasses.
I took a drink right as that fall.
Did you spit take it?
Almost.
You know what? What I understand about
like
Lance,
a record.
It was the glasses.
What I understand about Lance,
it's gonna be a hit.
He would hate this. I guarantee you, he would hate that.
Oh no!
That guy looks like
a lot of money.
Records in the 70s.
He produced the Beastie Boys albums.
Oh my god!
License to Ill.
Yeah, actually, I kind of am down for that guy.
Maybe he should
try that guy.
That is kind of a cool guy.
Just the full transition.
Yeah.
Go full Dion.
Oh
no.
Okay, so Tully, you were saying in 2009 you never felt like there was a moment where it was obvious that the wheels have fallen off. Do you feel that way right now? Do you feel like the wheels have fallen off, or do you feel like that's coming if they don't do X, Y, Z?
I mean, they're right on the precipice of it. But I think the season is salvageable. It would really be surprising that somebody with the body of work that Jaylen Daniels has in his college career would just fall off that much and stay there for a whole season. I really can't see that happening. I don't, unless there's some, injury or something wrong with him we don't know about. I don't know that I've ever really seen that. So I think he's in some kind of a yips funk, problems with the offensive coordinator. He's pissed off. I don't know what, but I think there's a chance that I would expect they're probably going to be competitive in most of the games, even if they lose them. I think the worst case scenario is something kind of like 2009, where it's just a lot of sort of like heartbreaking losses week after week after week. But the team never fell apart. You never felt like they gave up or like guys checked out or anything like that. They were just dealing with too much, I think. And maybe that'll wind up being the case with this team, but no, I wouldn't say, I don't think they're cooked yet. No.
That team had so many good players on it. It's
This
so
one
hard.
too.
I know. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I mean, it had Briscoe, it had obviously Kerry Meyer, it had Todd. I mean, the defense was even had Stuckey on that team. I mean, there were some dudes on that. Jake Sharp.
Yeah.
That dude was good.
Chris Harris.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you go down the list, like how it can get weird. Like even with good dudes, it can get weird. And
I think that has to be like chief among the focus, like for this staff and specifically your CEO, is like you cannot lose these dudes. Because a lot of these guys, I know a lot of these are Lance's guys, but there are still some holdovers from the prior era, and like there is this baked in DNA of Kansas football of just shit's gonna hit the fan. What's it gonna be tomorrow? And I think that's obviously been changed with this coaching staff, but that's like my number one priority. Like if you're right, Tully, the number one priority has to be make sure you don't lose these players. Because if you're talking about guys already want to see a change at OC, like how real is that though? Is it like, hey, yeah, we love Coach Z, or is it like this is bullshit, he should be the OC, et cetera, et cetera? Because that's how this thing spirals out of control.
It's gonna take more, but it's not crazy.
It is a shot at Lance a little bit though, also, because then you're saying that you picked the wrong guy, or that it's not you and your coaching or your system. It was Kotelnick. I think that's also part of where this gets personal. But I do agree. Continuity.
Who cares? Two biggest stakes. You gotta get right.
I agree. Continuity is the most important thing for Kansas football. And that means Lance and roster, even though they're losing a ton of dudes. I mean, a lot of these guys are in there's a comment here about it. Like a lot of these guys are kind of less players as well. The guys that are doing well, certainly Jaylen. Yeah, I don't.
They should have never fired Les, Mike. I know where you're going with this. They should have never.
Bring back Les.
Okay, let's do this. If Les Miles was the head coach, everything else was the same. Lance had been the head coach the last couple of years. If Les Miles, but if they just brought him in as like a celebrity coach, oh my God, dude, that's so good. So good. If Les Miles was the coach for the first 3 weeks,
a celebrity
what's KU's record?
Is Dearman the OC?
No, it's still Grimes.
Oh no! All right,
what are we doing?
1 and 2.
Yeah.
So it comes back to Grimes for me.
Where's
if you tell
Dearman?
me it's a different OC,
Call Dearman.
I'm probably changing the record.
Brent Dearman as the OC, 2-1.
Probably
sure.
3-0. That dude's waving the
But
wheat.
that's just
The
kind of
wheat
what it is.
ready.
Like we've said it a bunch of different ways. I think I said on Friday, I was like, it's like the Tim McGraw-Nelly pairing. Both of those guys, very successful.
Ever since you said that.
Both those guys, very successful on their own. And then when they come together for whatever reason, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work when those two try to collaborate. And that's kind of where I'm at, where it's like, no, Jeff Grimes probably could be good. And they're probably quarterbacks who could have success at Kansas with Jeff Grimes as the OC. Jaylen Daniels just isn't one of them. And it's the same way with JD. We know he's a good quarterback. We've seen it. But there's some, like Bill, like right now, if Bill Self, if you asked him his thoughts on Jaylen Daniels, he'd say, well, he's just got to go out there and play. He's got to stop thinking. He's thinking too much. And we got to get him to the point where he's thinking, or he's not thinking, he's just going out there and playing, because that's what it feels like with JD. It's like,
he tries hard.
God, he wants it.
Nobody
wants it better, more than he does.
Privately, he's like, he's fucking soft.
Yeah.
Lance called
us. Every episode, we need to do what would Bill. Every football episode, we need Bill's take.
That's a good
and
bit.
I want to know what Bill would think about Grimes and Lance right now. Or Kelly, the Kelly Leipold tweet.
Well, my wife would never. I mean,
well, Cindy,
she knows better than that.
You can't do that. You got to do better than that.
Yeah, I just think that like the Buffalo Bills fired their OC a month into the season last year. They turned it around.
Would Bill Self have called his starting quarterback fragile? The situation is fragile. That's the word.
Yeah, how
I don't think
how
he
about
would
those?
use that word. No.
Fragile feels like a word that seems like it's teetering. Like I could go one way or the other here.
It did look fragile.
It did look fragile. I'll buy. Like
the whole thing feels fragile.
The word was right, like to describe what we all saw, but
I didn't need the head coach to say it.
I think the head coach needs to say, we're going to get this shit figured out. Don't you worry about it. We're going back to the tape. We're going back to
Yeah, and I wanted to hear him come out and be like, I got no concerns with Jaylen. Like,
exactly.
Don't lie to me. Lie to me. I'm perfectly fine being lied to, because that means you're lying to everybody else as well.
Like that. It's
Lance did he was like, I'm not going to give you a word to use to quote. No, you're going to use a word that I say to quote, something like that.
Fragile was the word.
Well, here's the thing.
So
what do you think the whole press conference
came up with fragile?
He said it, and then he tried to
that's a good word.
And then he tried to be like, I'm not going to give you a word.
It's which I could use shit show, but I'm going to go with fragile.
You know how a press conference works? Like, he was blaming them for keying in on what he said.
Yeah, dude.
But you said it.
You know what this is doing? This is giving me PTSD from the Beatty era of when you didn't have a real quarterback, and every single week it was just like, who's going to be the starter this week? Are they going to make a change? And there was maybe my all-timer for David Beatty was Carter Stanley went and had an incredible game. He threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was the first decent performance by a quarterback under David Beatty. And Jesse Newell asked him, he was like, hey, so what'd you think of Carter's game? And David Beatty's response was, not going to get me on that one, bud. No more questions about the quarterback. I can't go back to that, guys. I cannot go back, because if the second you pulled JD, you're like, we're going to give Ballard a start. Well, it's probably not going to go well. And then after the game, it's going to be like, well, do you go back to JD? I can't do that anymore.
That's what I'm saying. Anymore. I'm with you.
I mean,
we're not going back.
Going to get hurt, so it'll all work itself out here. But it's... And then we're going to be like, oh, man, I wish we had JD back, because...
Yeah. That's a good call. The feeling of we're not going back. I've been saying it. That's KU. There are two options here, which is that Lance will show competency and things will end up okay, or KU football goes back to where it came from. I feel like those are two very real scenarios that we're playing with here, and it terrifies. It's like it terrifies me. Cannot have that happen.
I mean, my first instinct at the end of that game Friday was that the Lance era is effectively over. That was like my first feeling. It was like, he's cooked. I don't really think that now, as I said earlier, but like that was like, okay, they're 1-2. This is going to be a bad year. He's going to be fighting with the fans, and then the next thing that happens is he's fired. It's like once the fans turn on you, then the media turns on you, then you're done. That's how it works.
Yeah, I don't think if this is the nightmare season, I don't think it ends with like what some people have implied of like, oh, maybe he'll take the Wisconsin job. It's like, no. The nightmare season ends with him taking the Bowling Green job.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't give a shit. I just want to be anywhere that's not Kansas. That's the true nightmare season.
Frank Martin leaves Kansas State. Yeah, absolutely agree. He's not going to a better job unless it's for a coordinator role. It's absolutely people are too online. Someone makes an emotional knee-jerk reaction and Lance leaving, or I don't think Travis has got it in him. Like he's pretty meticulous as I understand it. That I think he would have a pretty long leash for the coach that also just got, like top 20 money. So it's nothing like that.
Well,
shouldn't even be discussed.
Maybe he's a rebuild guy. Like we just need to rebuild again.
I mean,
he's a rebuild guy. You're right.
He's a rebuild guy. Like just keep rebuilding.
Well, it's next year.
Yeah, you got to just make a and then a rebuild guy.
I mean, Lance is obviously the best football coach they've had in at least 15 years. That I think that needs to be pointed out. And there's been like 8 coaches in that time. So Lance is a really good coach.
Right.
He's encountered some things. I think Mike alluded, was talking about earlier, where this is a bit of a bigger spotlight than he's been in before. I think that's been an issue, a little issue at times. And then he's got this thing with the fans where he's mad that he's not getting the support he thinks he should get. But that all said, I mean, I don't think, I would be more in favor of KU giving him even more money right now than like going toward the direction of getting rid of him.
Right.
What I was saying earlier was it's more just a prediction that if it goes sour with the fans, there's usually no turning that around. So I think the whole situation's in a delicate spot.
Fragile.
Between the fans. Yeah, it's fragile. Between the fans and him. And
this is why you got to just make a move at OC. You make that move and everything goes, we're right back, baby.
Yeah, but it has to work. You know what I mean?
It has to work.
That's the pressure you put on yourself is if you make this decision and it doesn't work, then you're running out of fingers to point as to why it's not working.
Kev's got a baby.
Kev's holding a baby.
Congratulations, Kevin. Congratulations, dude.
Kevin's holding a baby.
My child's sleep patterns.
Kevin's got a baby?
Yeah, he's got it.
Wow.
That's the first ever baby on the Could Be Wrong podcast. I'm fairly certain.
Wow.
Look what you did, Travis. Look what you did, Travis Goff.
I got a DM from a fan who told me a story, and I believe this is probably right because the fan was actually regretting his actions at the end of this game. He said at the end of the UNLV game, he went down toward the field, saw Travis Goff, and yelled at him that you're charging me $150 for TCU tickets, and you got to do a better job, basically. And Goff stopped and looked pissed, and then walked off. And apparently, Lance approached the fan and asked, "Were you yelling at me?"
See, this is where it goes
Wait.
sideways. He's the guy. Lance is the guy who will.
Hold on. And then he said, "I was yelling at Goff, but I think you need to do a better job of getting the team prepared." And apparently, Lance said, "I agree." And that was the exchange. And this person is like, "I really regret it. I was mad. This is the best coach and administration we've had in years. What was I doing?"
Correct. I mean,
oh, for sure.
True. All that true. But if he can't take that, because it's going to be way worse online. Don't let him open because you know what Kelly.
That's what I'm saying. They're online
every night. Like we know they're online. Like imagine what's going on in that household.
That's
they need to turn it all off and they'd be better for it. This is the stuff I get worried about people who don't use the internet right.
Shout out Curtis Townsend.
He uses the internet right. He uses the internet perfectly.
Silent assassin.
He gets exactly what he wants out of it and nothing else.
Exactly. It's a means to an end. It's a means to an end. Use it right. Sup, big dog? I mean, even Beatty used the internet right.
What did Beatty do? Neat deal?
No, his little videos. Sup, big dog?
You ever had a coach recruit you on a hoverboard before?
Had a coach recruit. Rock chop.
Like, this is what I imagine as well, where it sounds like obviously Lance handled that really pretty well. It sounds like he wanted to speak and he took criticism and accountability with the fan one-on-one. A lot of coaches wouldn't do that, but my fear is like, you say you want, or if you want people to really care, like Nebraska 6 wins ain't cutting it.
Yeah, go
the guaranteed rate bowl isn't cutting it. Right.
That fan could get TCU tickets for $25 right now, by the way. I'm looking at it right now. You can get into Arrowhead on the KU Athletics website for $25.
And a free hot dog.
It's kind of what it should be, though. And it is like, I don't know what it's tough to expect a great, like, we're taking this thing to Arrowhead. But I guess if the team's 3-0, like, the conversation is just so different.
Yeah. Those Arrowhead, I don't live up there anymore, but those Arrowhead games would be tough for me. I think obviously if you live in Kansas City, that's great, but what student, like, how are the students even getting there?
You're busing them.
They're busing.
Student section was great, by the way, at Sporting. We were right above it. Like, we had the best view of the student section. They were great all game. Like, now it wasn't a big section because it wasn't a big stadium, but like as a small student section goes, they had, in fact, the whole stadium like there was nothing to complain about the crowd.
They did seem like a good crowd.
Even the booze
seemed like a great crowd.
The crowd was ready the whole time.
How many students do you think there were?
How big is that place?
How many students do you think
14,
there were?
15.
15,000. I would say 2,000, 2,500.
Okay.
Tops.
I think apparently, like, there was a lot of work that went into how can we keep this to be like a college experience? Basically, like, students are going to want to drink for football games. How can you not narc on this without also like taking on legal responsibility?
Bus.
So anyways, I think there's like a third party busing them, basically.
It's
someone
really
else took on that.
That bus ride back to Lawrence after the game is the one where I just go, oh. Can you imagine?
We need a could be wrong correspondent in the buses after the game, getting live reacts from the students and like seeing throw up and stuff. It'd be cool. It'd be really cool. Nick, will you read this?
Yeah, Jared says ticket to Arrowhead $22, hot dog and a beer $18. Kelly Leipold calling you a shitbag fan, priceless.
I like how you make Nick read it.
Oh yeah, Nick, read this.
No, okay. So can we close the episode on this because we've been going for a while?
Yeah.
I want to go something we've kind of talked around, but I know it's something you've said a lot, Mike, and we talked about it last week. That like expectations have gotten out of control for this team, going back to the beginning of the year, and that everything that's on the table right now for like what could go wrong, whether it's the stadium, whether we're talking about recruits, we're talking about Lance potentially leaving, whatever. I would love to hear like your sort of perspective on why expectations have led us to this and what you think needs to happen from here, because I know we're not really aligned, but I want to know like kind of like your perspective on this.
You're asking me or Tolly?
You.
Tolly's the perspective guy.
Yeah, but this is something that you believe. This is something that you've talked about. Yeah.
Okay, so the expectation was that KU generally was going to like win the Big 12 or be in the Big 12 championship game. And the reason I thought this got out of whack was because it has never happened before. And that is asking a lot of a program that has never reached this level of height where like it's just a long game for me, a little bit more than like I know the pieces were there, but like building a real program doesn't like just, like flip the switch. Yeah, we're going to win the Big 12 and be in the college football playoff. That was my fear all along, which was like, everyone was like playoff, KU playoff or bust. Like it was fun to say, it was fun to say and talk about. And I get it, but I was just like, things go like, you don't just have a perfect football season, and KU doesn't have the depth. Honestly, like my thought was more at the time, KU didn't have the depth for a perfect year. And I guess it's happened once, close to it, right? The dream season, the real dream season. But it just is so hard to pull off that I thought it was out of whack. And look, the UNLV game is awful. I don't care if the expectations were bad, though everyone would be like, yeah, that checks out. Everyone would be kind of laughing together. So it's different, but I just was like, you can't roll over if KU has a 4 or 5. I mean, that would suck. But a 6-win year, let's still say that. Like that is still the first time ever KU's done this. And I don't want to go back to those David Beatty days. And that's like where I just can't get over.
I get that, but I also think like when you consider how we got to this point of having really high expectations, you win 8 games last year, or was it
Guaranteed
7?
Rate bowl. Yeah.
And
9 wins.
You bring back all your best players, including a quarterback who we all thought that Jaylen Daniels was a better quarterback than Jason Bean, regardless of like how the season ended, and we left on like a high note with Bean. It's not, I mean, yes, it's unrealistic because by definition, like it's not going to happen, but it's not like nobody had to get super creative to conjure up like an explanation as to why they thought that this could be a 9-win team, a 10-win team. So I just think that's college football. Like that's just being a fan. Is like, hey, we got everybody back. Sky's the limit. Things could be really good. And I don't think that would be any different right now sitting at 1-2. Like if we thought that this was going to be a 6-win team and they started 1-2 and lost both of those games because of not being able to pick up a fumble because your quarterback turned into a pumpkin, I think we'd be having the same conversations. I think people would be just as disappointed as they are right now.
It's pretty toxic out there. And they're very online.
But you think people would be happy? Like, do you think people would be
no,
like,
but
oh,
they
this
would
is fine?
Not care. Like that happened. That happened. That's what I didn't want to have happen again.
But these aren't unrealistic expectations. You were favored in both of those games. You know what I mean? Like you were favored against Illinois.
Yeah,
all of that would have been the same, regardless of our expectations.
Oh,
So you would have been expecting to win those games, and you would be disappointed that you didn't win those games.
Sure, but the expectations go into, I guess, the being favored. I just still am like, we don't know what's going to happen here. I just think the reaction is helps cascade. It just does a little bit of extra gas on this, a little bit extra gas on the fire. I don't know, like,
but I think I guess my point is that like I don't think you can have one without the other. Like you wouldn't have a $500 million new stadium being built if there wasn't excitement around the program. And that excitement around the program is the same excitement that led people to getting their hopes up about this season.
The start is disappointing, like no matter what your expectations were. That is fair. But it's still like, what does a 6-win season mean? And how do people kind of react as this thing continues to go?
I think people will not react well to a 6-win season based on expectations.
For sure. I get that. But it's like it wouldn't be that. We would still have some fun on the way to a 6-win year this season.
Yes.
Like it would still be pretty fun going to a bowl game. Obviously, that means they're turning it around. They're winning some 5 Big 12 games. And Jeff Grimes is either no longer the offensive coordinator or he turns out he wasn't a suckbag loser. And someone here says that Tatown Hawk said part of the booing is I attribute to Grimes being handed a Ferrari and he drove it right in a ditch after pulling out of the driveway, which is true. He just took this thing and, someone else said, he was gifted an amazing playbook also.
That would actually be the funniest thing. The funniest thing that could happen is if JD starts the rest of the year, he sucks all year. Like he's just ruined for all intents and purposes. He signs like an undrafted free agent contract with the Panthers. And like all of a sudden he's like starting playing well. And you're like, oh, okay. So he didn't forget how to play football. That would be the final nail in the Jeff Grimes coffin.
Or it's like they make the play calling switch with 1 game left, and Jaylen is awesome in that last
6
game.
touchdowns. Yeah.
Yeah. That feels pretty on the table, to be honest.
It's crazy, though. Like, it's in the range of outcomes for him to have 6 touchdowns. Like, that's the thing that drives me so crazy is that it's there. Like, he doesn't look that hurt. Or, I mean, like, let's say he's 75%. Like 75% of him is still pretty good because we've seen the ceiling. That's what's so confusing. And if we go to a dark place in this season, like I hear you talking about 6
I'm in a dark place.
I know, but let's say it goes real dark. Like we finished this season with 3 wins.
Like born in the darkness.
At this moment, that does not seem like that impossible. It doesn't. I mean, that's what makes me nervous. Like, if you want to talk about being in a dark place, like, shit, we lose.
Yeah, it could get really ugly.
I mean, we lose to West Virginia. You're now 1-3, and now it's all on. Like, all the pressure's now on you. You got TCU.
Yeah, losing your first conference game after these last 2. That would be a major shift, and like, oh, maybe this isn't gonna get better.
I mean, if they win against West Virginia, I think people can kind of come back to the table. But they lose. Like, this is a big game this week. It's a big game. It's a big game not just for the season. It's a big game for the psyche.
Oh, it's fragile.
It is a fragile fan base. It's a psyche game. I mean, if they lose, man, like it's not crazy to see the spiral and things get crazy and weird and stuff Tully was talking about in 2009. Like it's not.
Wait, does Jaylen Daniels have 1 more year if he wanted to?
I think so.
Then that's what's going to happen. Okay, well then
he's going to Penn State.
Yeah, he's going to Penn State or he's going to Texas A&M.
No.
Just going to ball out. Yep.
That is the Kansas football outcome. God dang it. So we gotta keep our composure. We can't be freaking out there because the other side of this we can't freak out. Yeah, no, it's a huge game. So what do you can it work with like this OC and Jaylen? I guess.
I want to see a little more creativity.
No, I don't think it can work. I don't. You got to change something.
You're done. You're done.
Yeah, I mean, it's too big of a fall. If Jaylen used to be okay and now he's bad, or he used to be great and now he's just like kind of good, I'd be like, okay, they're working out the kinks. But Jaylen used to be good and now he's fucking terrible.
Yeah, the gap between where it is and what would be like okay is really wide right now. So, it would be impressive if they closed that gap. If they were to somehow get better than okay, that would be amazing.
Wow.
It's true.
So yeah. Grimes is so and Tully, are you saying like is that a Grimes problem?
I don't know what it is. I can't figure it out. It's obvious Jaylen is not playing well. It's obvious there's issues with the creativity in the offense, not just the creativity. I don't know. There's issues with the offensive strategy. I don't know if one is feeding into the other, if they're just happening isolated. I think all of us are sort of confused by that, but I can't figure that out. I don't think Grimes is good, based on what I've seen, but I don't think he's this bad. I mean, how could he be? How do you get to be like the offensive coordinator at like Baylor and Kansas, being this terrible? I don't think he is as bad as it looks. I don't think Jaylen's as bad as it looks, but right now it looks really, really bad.
You can't get rid of Jaylen Daniels. You're paying him $1 million. You're probably paying the OC close to $1 million.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance, Tully, to play devil's advocate. He could be this bad. Like Jeff Grimes. I think there's enough examples of like coaches who fall backwards into jobs that like there is a chance that somehow, some way, he's just continued to find employment in this industry. And he saw a sucker in Lance Leipold who hasn't had to hire an OC in 15 years.
Fuck who fed him to us?
The thing about the
Bill Snyder
is an indicator.
The hugs.
The hugs is the biggest red flag.
That is not a good sign.
The hugs is that he likes to be on the field to either hug or challenge his players when he needs it, which means he should be a good like mental coach here, and it's the exact fucking opposite.
Well, okay, you know what I just
the cold read is it's like making up for deficiencies. It's like trying to hide them by being like, "Oh, I'm the player's guy" or whatever. That's just cold read. I don't know this man at all. I didn't even know his name until like 2 weeks ago. So I don't know that making any sort of
it's weird.
Well, you know what's I just remembered is I can't believe I haven't thought about this since last week, but after the Illinois game when he said like, "Yeah, I'm not going to show this film to the team. We're just going to focus on getting better in practice." About? Bro, now I'm starting to wonder if maybe there's some insight to be gained by showing that film to the head of the UNLV, especially Jaylen. Like talk about a guy who probably could have learned a thing or two by watching the film from the prior week. Actually, the more we think and talk about this, I am convinced Jeff Grimes is just like somehow like found a way to just fall backwards in this industry, or fall upwards, excuse me. Yeah, but he's got to go. He's got to go.
I guess
he's making pretty much $1 million. By the way, I just pulled up his deal. He's got a 3-year contract.
Who makes more, him or Jaylen?
I think he does.
No, how much does he make? How much does he make? How much does he make?
First year 800, second year $1 million.
Jaylen makes more.
1.2. Then there's retention bonuses.
Oh,
getting you up to 300 more a year. And he's got a bunch of incentives on top of that.
He won't get those. I mean, yeah, I would not like these throws are bad. And apparently, if you take away the interceptions, KU's offense is about as efficient as it was last year. And so you look at the throws and they're squarely on Jaylen, but it still is just like, I'm going to blame the coach, not the player who's been fine for years, better than anyone KU's had. And like, it doesn't make sense. The screens are shitty. He's down there on the field. Now you can be in the headset too. So like, that doesn't seem good. Like, I don't think they like each other. Like, it doesn't seem good. Yeah. Hey, what would be okay? Like, what's the bottom line from West Virginia?
All right.
Like,
yeah. Okay.
Quick West Virginia, and then we get out of here.
Win.
It's it, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's it. It's
Jaylen throws 3 interceptions. KU wins by 1.
That'd be tough. That's a tough script to pull off.
Yeah,
they've almost pulled it off twice.
I was gonna say we have several chances.
That is a real stress test you put out there, Mike.
Yeah. Thank you.
That is hard to answer. I don't know. I would still be pretty negative, I think, if that happened. Like, I would feel pretty
if the defense just got like 2 pick sixes.
Yeah,
Jaylen's
they
awful.
run a punt back, or stuff like that. I mean, yes, of course. At this point, and really any point in Kansas football history, you take any win you can get. But I wouldn't, if that's the way that played out, I wouldn't be like, oh, things are better now.
Yeah, because I made that mistake at the beginning of the year when Mike asked me, it would be a good season and I said, if Jaylen Daniels was healthy, because it was a simple equation to me. I was like, well, if he's healthy, they have a chance to win a bunch of games. If he's not, they don't have a chance. I didn't consider the third option, that he would turn into a fucking toad overnight. So I'm not going to make the mistake of simplifying this again. You have to win, and Jaylen has to look like a competent quarterback. I don't even need him to look like the old Jaylen. Just look like a better version than we've seen the first 3 weeks.
I think that's about right. Just some sign of progress. Totally. Is KU football going to be all right? Because I don't know. I want to leave on that question. Like, where do you see this going?
Yeah, I think KU football being all right is really a loaded question. I don't know what that means, but better than the last 15 years. Yeah, I think if Lance is there, they're going to be better consistently than they normally are, is what I would say.
All right, I'm back in. Oh, we just needed Lance.
All right, guys.
Everybody's still on fraud watch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like everybody.
More. They're all on fraud watch. Kobe, we didn't even get the
except for Devin Neal. Devin Neal's not on fraud watch.
No,
he's about the only thing about this team that
I'm
excited about right now.
By the way, what is Lawrence Arnold's 40 time? Like 6'5"? Like, have you seen these end arounds with him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why are you even calling? Also, Trevor Wilson had the worst kick return I've maybe ever seen. He took one to the 11 and there was a hold on it.
Yeah.
He's on fraud watch. Arnold's on fraud watch. Jared Casey, you're still on fraud watch. He shouldn't be a full-time tight end. Jeff Grimes is the tight ends coach, so that's great.
Why is he pulling double duty?
Because they do that.
So that's why Jared Casey sucks now.
So that's like
okay, now
Jared's back.
Yeah.
Jared!
Is that Jared? That is the position group that was good last year that has completely disappeared this year.
Jared Casey's parents not on Friday.
Everything Jeff Grimes touches turns to shit.
Oh man. I am pretty convinced he's the problem.
Okay,
The
do you
more
guys?
we talk about it,
but-
I am too.
You don't actually think he'll get fired this season, though, do you? Or demoted? No.
They could take away play calling duties and give it
play
to some guy.
calling, but they're
The players want that. I believe one openly expressed it in the locker room. After
But would they do it? Would they do it publicly? Like, would Lance have to make an announcement that we're handing over play calling duties?
Here's how it happens: they lose, and Jaylen goes to the microphone, and they say, "Jaylen, can you tell me a little bit about what happened?" He's like, "This play calling is bullshit," and like everyone's like, "Oh, he said the quiet part out loud. We've been saying that shit too. Like, I agree with him." Like, and then just snowballs.
That'd be- He's like, yeah, this guy's in my ear before we're snapping it, saying, throw it to that guy, and then I stare him down.
Don't throw an interception. Don't throw it to someone in our jersey color. Not that one. God.
Hey, Lawrence Arnold's gonna run straight, and you're gonna throw it to him no matter what. Okay?
Pretty much.
He's like, all right, I'm gonna stare at Lawrence Arnold here and throw it right to him.
Pick. The defenders aren't there.
I throw it really high to give him time to get there.
It's all right. It's Grimes. That's my answer.
It's only
Thank you.
2.5 point line. What are we doing with this line?
Staying
What do you think?
far away from it.
No, I'm taking the
No.
Hawks.
I'm not incapable. I'm not capable of that.
Are you taking the Hawks?
There's always a bet.
I mean, KU money line. You get to
Yeah.
plus 120 right now on FanDuel.
Value boys on the Hawks.
Do I go all in on the Hawks this week? Maybe we just go big on the Hawks.
Just hammer. They hammer the
hammer the Hawks, and just this is the last straw. And if we lose, like I'm just out. Like this is it.
No, you'll be right back in the fucking very next week, and you know it.
I won't have a bet.
You
I
just
won't do it twice.
Always will.
I'll be on the other side. I'll just completely whiff
Fade.
it. I'll
Maybe
just
that's what we need to do.
I feel like KU's
All right,
getting
I'm going to
respect.
wrap us up.
KU's getting respect in this game is all I'm saying. That's a good thing.
Yes, on the road, no less.
Definitely.
Thanks to everybody for coming, watching, listening. KU West Virginia, if they lose again, we'll save the season again next week. Mike, Kevin, Tully, thank you, fellas.
Baby.
Save the
Baby.
season.
And the baby.